Thanks, Jim. Good evening. Welcome to the July meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission. My name is Greg Young. I'm the current chair of the commission. And this open meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on July 16th of 2022. All members of the Northborough Conservation Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The act allows the Northborough Conservation Commission to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tom Beals. You're muted, Tom.
Yes, sorry,
Thank
here.
you. It's not a problem. Dan Clark.
Here.
Justin Dufresne.
Here.
Todd Helwig.
Here.
Diane Gouldner.
Here.
Very good. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Vincent Bignali.
Here.
Jim DeMeo.
Here.
Thank you, Jim. Some business meeting ground rules. For presenters and/or applicants listed on the agenda, the chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the commission will be conducted by roll call vote. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. By phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Please note that part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing the meeting. By Zoom, click raise hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized. The chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. Diane, you're up.
There will be a meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission on Wednesday, July 20th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16th, 2021. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. To participate in the public comment portion of this hearing, go to Northborough Remote Meetings YouTube channel or town website for Zoom information. The meeting will include the following hearings pursuant to Mass General Laws 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, and the Northborough Wetlands Protection Bylaw. First meeting, notice of intent application for 33 Church Street, that's map 54, parcel 42 and 94, by Veronica Harmon for proposed deck replacement and proposed 10 by 10 patio. This is awesome.
You done? Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. June 15th meeting minutes. As usual, very thorough. Anybody have any questions or comments or concerns with the June meeting minutes?
Greg, I have one question. I noticed on the part about the forester, nothing was brought up about all the trees that have been cut down, and I wondered if there's anything new or significant on that particular part, or whether it just doesn't need to be included on this.
Well, it's on the agenda tonight for an update, so that's probably the time to talk about it.
Okay,
Fair enough?
yep,
Anything else, Diane? That's
Nope.
it?
that's it.
Super. Anybody else have any questions? Concerns?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dan Clark. Roll call vote. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
I'll abstain. I was
Oh,
not
sorry,
there.
that's right. That's right. You're right. Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Carried. That's right. You were not here, and neither was Diane. All right, the agenda. We're gonna move a couple things around here, but let's just jump right into it. 0 Hudson Street. What's going on with that one, Vinny?
Yeah, we worked with the applicant. We met the applicant's wetland specialist out there, and we determined a line for a wetland line. And I'm waiting for them to submit plans showing that line. And so we can confirm that and then move on from there as far as all the setbacks then get set in his building placement, whatever his proposal is, we determine the issues based on that line. So hopefully we'll be seeing something shortly.
Want to continue, correct?
Yep, and they requested to continue to the next meeting, August 8th.
So this has been bugging me for a while. They've been on the agenda for at least a year. There's been very little action. I'm concerned that they're going to claim some sort of pre-existing, grandfathered status with respect to a change at some point in the bylaw. I don't know. I've never seen anything hang around this long. I think we should give them a warning, like you got 3 months, or we're not giving you any more continuance.
I can relay that information to them.
But I think we need to, Greg, or does anybody else feel that way?
No, I think you're right. They've had a long enough time and they dragged a lot of it out with bringing in a different person to study the wetlands line. So didn't Mia go out there with a woman, another woman or something on that particular parcel?
Yep.
Yes,
So it wasn't all just Goddard.
It's been a while. It's been certainly a year. I think maybe even pushing closer to 2, Todd, on that one.
Yeah.
So I have no issue with issuing them a warning, unless anybody else has any comments on that.
Seems reasonable to me.
Okay. No other issues here. So Vinny, let's you and I get together and send something out to them. It can come from me, it's fine, or you, it doesn't make a difference, but
okay. It's easier if I would probably just send an email.
okay, we need a vote to continue.
Make a motion to continue 0 Hudson Street to the August 8th meeting.
Second,
By Diane Goldner. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
yes.
and I vote yes. Todd, that was a very strained yes. Okay. 71 Coolidge Circle.
We have Mark Farrell. He had a conflict at some point and was going to try to be around for the earlier time frame. Jim,
See him there. We'll bring him into panelists.
Green Hill Engineering, or Mark
Yep.
Farrell.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, great. This is Mark Farrell, Green Hill Engineering. It's asking me if I want to be a panelist or an attendee.
So the panelists will allow you to screen share if you have any site plans or anything like that you'd like to share.
Okay, I don't have any.
Okay, then how it is fine.
Yeah, so we met last time and there was a couple of things they wanted, the board asked that all the trees to be cut down, be shown on the plan, and I've done that. I've designated them all on. I don't know if you guys have the plan in front of you, but they're shown in purple, the trees that are planned to come down. There was a question about the offsets to the wetland, the 25 and the 50 foot, and I read and a 35 foot, and I relabeled those properly. Also the walkway, there was an existing walkway that went down there. As they've been working there, it was just covered with, there was some paver blocks. It was just covered with some pine needles and leaves from over the years. But they're just going to shorten that so it comes short of the 35 foot buffer to the wetland, and then they'll cut through a little wall that's down along the driveway. So that would not be down into the 35 foot zone. Basically, I just want to reiterate on the trees is it's really not a lawn expansion at all. They're just trying to take down some very large hazards and dead trees and a few trees to kind of make solar a little bit more favorable on the roof.
Yeah, Mark, hold on for 1 second. Would you, Mark? Hold on for 1 second.
Okay,
Kelly is I see Kelly. Is she coming in?
No,
Hi there.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
We don't see you, we hear you.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to get my video going. I'm patchy here.
All right. You're not driving a car, are you?
I might be.
Oh, boy. Okay. All right. All right.
But I'll
I'm
not
fi-
be driving in 5 minutes, so I'm listening right now.
Fair enough. Okay. Vinny, do you have the plan you could throw up here? For 71?
I'm not driving. I'm sitting in the car.
Good.
Good, that's a good thing. Okay.
I thought about it, but no, I'm not.
Okay. Glad to hear that one. Okay, so there's the plan. You want to take us through it again now, please, Mark?
Okay, down where the driveway is, the walkway has been, right in that area has been, before it extended into the 35 foot zone.
Yep.
And basically we did a right-hand turn. They're going to cut the wall and put a few steps to go down the existing driveway.
And you're gonna stay outside the
trees-
35, right? That's outside the
Outside
35.
the 35, yes, outside the
just-
35.
Just so you know, we visited the site on Friday.
Okay.
So
So that, and I relabeled, I inadvertently had labeled the 25 and the 35, mixed them up, so I corrected that. And I've shown all the trees that they want to cut down for the septic and around the house. And those are shown in purple. And as I said before, it's really not a tree, it's really not a lawn expansion at all.
Right.
Most of those trees are involved with the septic, or they're huge pine trees that are, you know, hazard trees, or the ones to the Benny has his mouse on now are trees to get a little more solar, a little more light on the house. Again, it's not a lawn expansion. And I put an area, a designated area for stockpiling the loam. There's not going to be a lot of excavation or material coming in there. So just above the septic system, where some of those trees are going to come out, I've designated the up above the septic.
Oh, up here?
Yeah,
Oh, right
up in
there. I'm sorry.
The
Yep.
designated stockpile area. The trees, the only stumps that will come down will be removed, which will, they're not planning on removing the stumps, which will minimize disturbance to the site, except for within the area of the septic system. They'll have to come out by code, those stumps. The rest of the stumps are just going to leave in place, grind them down, but they're not going to bring an excavator in there and pull them out.
And the shed is gone, is that correct?
Shed is gone, yes. Yep. There was a shed that was at the end of the little turnout down there, and that's been removed.
And you're proposing to take this tree out here and then another tree here. This one is leaning towards the house, and these two, this is a twin dead tree as well as this.
Yeah, there was one giant one there, Vinny, right? Is that the one that's right on the elbow there?
This, you mean?
No, further down behind the house. There's a big giant, a huge pine.
Oh,
right
yeah,
there.
that's down here. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. It's
All
right in the
makes
septic
sense.
system.
To me,
So who's that, Tom?
yes.
All right. Nothing else has changed other than that, right? The septic is what, 55 off the wetland boundary?
Yeah, Benny wanted me to see if I can look at the problem is Title V only allows you to have 3 feet of cover over septic system. So to swing it more away is going uphill, and it would just increase the amount of cover on it. You could cut the hill, but that would significantly increase disturbance on the site if you start cutting the hill back over. So as I have it designed, it'll return back to its existing contours. As I said before, to get it outside that area, I'd have to put a pump in or start cutting the hill above so it wouldn't have more than 3 feet of fill in there, which would end up with, more disturbance to the site. So I've tucked the septic in. Title V is 50 feet. I know you have a bylaw, conservation does, it's 100 feet, but this is a repair of a septic system and there's no expansion of flow.
Great.
You've got some sort of curtain. Don't you have a curtain there too?
I do have on the downhill side is have a poly barrier, and what that does is just minimize the amount of disturbance below. You don't have to keep it, Title V require you keep it level 15 feet before you slope down. And by putting that poly barrier in, we can bring it back to 5 feet before we slope. And that's just a measure to, again, minimize disturbance to the site.
And the other question on this was the alteration that he's over the 5,000 or 10% allowed alteration within the riverfront area, but the building predates the August 1996 implementation of the regulation, so it's grandfathered.
All right. Anything else, Mark, from your side?
No, I'd be glad to answer any questions if you or any of the board members have any questions or have any.
Questions, comments from the commission?
How far is Leachfield from the wetland?
55 feet. 57, 56, 57 feet.
All right, I'll just restate my objection to violating the wetlands bylaw, but I said it last time, so just restate it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I think that Mark's met all of the things that we discussed prior. And since it's a replacement system, with a pre-existing house, I'm fine with it.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Anybody else? Let me see if we have any public comment here. Hands raised.
There's another issue that just so it gets before the board and we don't have to open and do a whole nother hearing on this in the future. There was the owners want to put in some gas power. So coming off Coolidge Circle, they're proposing to bring a gas line in up here, actually in up here and come into the left side of the porch. So it's not shown on the plan. It's outside the zones. The riverfront area is up here, so it's within the riverfront area, but it's grandfathered. The lot's grandfathered, so it doesn't really impact it. And Eversource was out there and said they don't need to take any trees down. They're just going to trench the pipe in. So that, just so it gets in the minutes, so that we have something that says this approval also allows the installation of the gas line. I don't see it as an impacting the design or the approval at all.
The outer riparian zone?
It's within the, oh, it's right, well, yeah, it's just outside because there's the 200-foot riverfront zone, I think is here.
That would be the 100-foot there, the 200
Oh, that's the
foot
100.
is way down. The whole lot's in the
Oh, right. No.
riparian zone. But
That's
it's,
the outer zone.
Yeah, so that's
it
here.
would
So
be
it
in-
is in the riverfront,
it'd be in the outer riparian zone.
right? But it's outside the 100-foot buffer.
And like you said earlier, it's grandfathered, so.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, I see nothing from the public, we can go ahead and move forward. Vinny, you're all set, Vinny? Any questions from your side?
Yeah, Mark's done a good job pulling everything together and the owner has been responsive.
Make a motion, we close the hearing.
Second,
Seconded by Diane Gildner. Roll call, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Diane Gouldner.
is it all right for me to vote on this one?
You were.
The hearing
thrilled
was
that last-
open.
Yeah,
Nope.
it was open last month for the first time, right? Was it
Yes.
previously opened or not?
No, it was open last month and she was not here at the last meeting.
That's right. So Justin and Diane are out.
All right.
Um,
make a note.
That leaves me.
Okay, the vote's for you, Kelly.
Yes,
Okay.
I vote
say
yes.
yes. Okay, so the meeting,
I make a motion to issue a order conditions for 71 Coolidge Circle.
That was Tom or was that Todd?
Tom,
that was Tom. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kelly Marston. Roll call, Tom Beals,
yes.
Dan Clark,
No.
I'm sorry, Todd Helwig,
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes. 4 pros and 1 nay. All right, Mark Farrell, I think you're all set.
Great, thank you very much. You have a good evening.
Yeah, be good to the folks. They're working, they're trying hard to make that place a nice spot, so.
Thank you.
All right. Moving along here. 93 Maynard Street.
We got a request from them. They are pulling together the information that we requested and requested a continuance till the next meeting,
August 8th.
August 8th. Yes.
Trying to.
Do we need to like issue them a notice of violation?
Yeah, this was a, you clearly built a fence in the restricted area. I mean, I didn't think that this wasn't a determination of applicability, was it?
It was requested as a determination of applicability. And then when we went out to inspect the property, Greg and I
Ah,
found it.
yeah,
And their response was going to address it and how they were going to approach it. And I was kind of hoping they would get something to us before this meeting and we'd be able to kind of close it all up, but I haven't received anything.
Good, so let's issue a notice of violation.
Hey, Vinny, before we get to that, can you close your screen so I can get back in here?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Thank you, sir. Okay, so we have an RDA request. As Vinny explained, when we went out to look at the site, we did see that they apparently have encroached about 6 fence lengths
Sections.
into the conservation restricted area. We met with a couple of neighbors and we did another tour of the site on Friday to see the other side of it, which is where the RDA is for. So the RDA is for some clearing they want to do. The violation that we noted was in a different area. So we can issue them a letter violation letter for that
Yeah.
piece.
I'm not saying that we have to fine them. I'm just saying, let's,
Put them on record as violating that piece of it and let the RDA flow. When we find anything additional, we deal with it that way.
Yeah, and this is the second violation.
yes.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we'll issue a violation letter. Should we vote on that, Vinnie?
Yes.
Okay. Need a motion to issue a violation letter to 93 Maynard Street for encroachment into the conservation restricted area.
So motion made.
Motion by
I'll
Tom
second.
Beal, seconded by
I'll
Todd
second.
Helwig. All in favor? We're going to roll call vote. This is for the violation letter.
Yep,
Tom
and-
Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne, Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Gouldner.
Skipping over it. I wasn't
Was that-
here.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Oh,
No, this is
we
a,
voted.
this is a
I don't think we
violation.
needed to be there though, right?
Not for a
Right.
violation letter, no.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it's a violation letter, so everyone
All
can
right,
vote.
okay. Yes.
And
It's easy.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
I vote yes.
And this is for the sections of fence that were constructed in the conservation easement, as well as the work behind a chicken coop that looked like it was in the area. So they were going to
All-
provide evidence, but
All
both
the
of
work
those are
in
in
the
the,
conservation restriction. area.
Yep.
Okay. Did we open this for the first time last month, Vinnie? June?
75 Ridge, yes.
No, it's like a 93 Maynard.
Oh, 93 Maynard. I think so, yes. Well, we opened it, it was occurring last month, so we lose Justin and Diane.
Oh, for the continuation to 8/8, we need a motion.
Make a motion to continue 93 Maynard Street to August 8th.
Second.
Motion by Tom, seconded by Todd. Roll call, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. Continued. Ridge Road. I want to make sure there's no hands up on the other one. Okay, Ridge Road, also a continuation.
Yes, they requested a continuation. They're working with myself as well as town engineer and the town planner, because they have proposals before, or the same plan has to go before the planning board or the zoning board, as well as the land disturbance bylaw. So town engineer is looking at it as well. So we're trying to all work together to come up with a consistent plan that hopefully will meet everyone's needs.
So I make
They
a
wanna-
motion.
Sorry, they want to go August or September?
They were not sure they'd be able to make it to the August one to go around and get all the corrections that would be needed. So they said the September 12th would be okay, but if we just go to the August and then continue it again, that's a possibility. It's your call.
I would just
Motion.
make a motion to continue it to August 8th. And we can always make another motion to continue it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Todd. Roll call, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. I do want to see if there's any hands up on this one from the audience, because we did get a letter today from a group called the People to Protect Bartlett Pond or something.
Save Bartlett Pond, a concerned community group.
With lots of good questions, but most of them should be answered by, I think, the engineer for the applicant. And we can answer a few, but nobody's raising their hand. So we'll move along. Before we get to these three here, let's bring up, you said Rashid Sheikh had to leave early, right?
He was listed late on the agenda and he
Yep.
said he had a conflict, so
Okay, let's bring him on.
I'm not sure if, is he there?
He's here. Let's bring Rashid on to the meeting. Promote to panelist. Hey, Rashid, you're muted. If you could unmute.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Can hear you, cannot see you. We can hear you.
Okay. I don't, yeah, you can see me too in a second. Thank you. Thank you much. I have a pretty bad gout, so I'm just,
really?
yeah. But anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Chair and the board. I know you guys have a long agenda, so I'll just try to be short and sweet. So 3943 King Street Assisted Living, we have the deadline till September 2022. And if you remember, around September 20th, 2020 timeframe, I came in front of the board and requested for 3-year extension, and I received 2-year extension. And the main reason was that we were asked to get a new curb cut from Mass DOT to reroute the King Street entrance. And you know the whole story, that basically this was based on the request of the neighbors and Mass DOT, because they all felt this will be a lot safer if we reroute that and we get the new curb cut. So you guys very, very kind to give us the extension, and that extension is good till September 2022. Meanwhile, we realized that we have to give some land to town to own that new kind of roadway, which we will build, but the town will own in the long run because it will become a public way. So that really we had to sign a memorandum of understanding with the town, and that took another over a year to figure it out. And then we started this deep Corona crisis, and this was the worst time for assisted living type business. And we learned that we had to really make some changes in the inside of the plan, nothing outside. And that was also approved from the ZBA when we applied in November last year. So that means it set the new date, 3-year dates from the November of last year. Meanwhile, our deadline is coming along on the conservation. Honestly, with all what was going on with the Corona industry, with the memorandum of understanding with the town and Mass DOT, it's very unfortunate that I have to, seek another extension based out of our, hand. However, we have made great progress since we have gotten all these changes, and we are, very close to close our financing deal with the bank, and we're making great progress. However, we humbly request another 3-year extension that will almost coincide with the ZBA deadline, because the ZBA now deadline is the 3 years from November of last year. So we would appreciate the extension that will give us time to start and complete this project.
When was the original order of conditions granted? Was it 2017?
I think it was 2018, if I remember it. And it was, it needed to be either renewed or expired in 21. And I came in September of 2020, a little bit time before it expired, because I knew what was going on. So yes, it was supposed to expire in, I think, May of 21, but I was given extension in September of 20 for 2 years.
This is similar to our discussion a little while ago, Todd, about Zero Hudson on that. Well, I mean, it's been a while. One of the only risk I see here, and then let's see what the commissioners think, is that our regulations have changed since the original granting. So what was 15 feet is now 25 feet, no touch area. And apparently and Vinny backed me up on this, I think that we have the authority to refuse an extension based on a change in regulations. Is that true?
Yes, yeah, and the original approval was June of 2018. The regulations changed in, I think it was September of 2019. I can pull up my screen to show the plan, but it's kind of up to you whether you want to even look at the plan. It's very tight along the wetland line, so he's starting a 1.5 to 1 slope from 15 feet off the vegetated wetland. And so if we use the new bylaws, their approved plan is pretty much out the window. I don't know how you could build it if we increase the setback to 25 feet as it is now. But it is, when reviewing a time extension in the MACC handbook, it reflects the commission's decision could be based on, or they can approve it. They can approve it with conditions. The extension, they can make it up to 3 years. And if the regulations, local regulations or the state regulations change, it's at the commission's choice whether you want to have a new filing or an amended filing and make some changes and see what you can get. But it provides a bit more flexibility to the commission, but it's not a rubber stamp. You automatically get 3 years if you ask for it.
What's the commission's feeling here?
Well, I'm going to first tell you that I am recused from this one because I have done legal work with the applicant. And like he said, he did have to work with the town for quite a long time on the roadway reconstruction stuff. So it is different than what we were talking about with
Zero Hudson.
Hudson Street, where nothing has ever happened. Here it was a permitted project.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yes. The overall condition of King Street has been pretty dumpy for a long time, and that abandoned building's been there forever. So I'm okay with staying with our original approval, as long as this project's going to move forward and come to fruition and get done.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I'd like to see it get done. I mean, he's put in so much extra effort and the town has required a lot. That would seem very ungentlemanly, excuse me, to pull the rug out from under his feet now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, Greg, I'd agree with everything that the others have said too. I mean, I know, our regulations have changed, but I think that, even that change in the regulations would significantly impact the project. From what I remember, everything's pretty close. It's a tight site, and to get it redeveloped, requires a little bit of work. And if we start to apply those new buffer zones to it, that could throw kind of everything into a tailspin too. So I know the applicant has been working hard with the town to get things done. So I think this one, to Todd's point, is a little different than some of the other ones we've talked about.
Mr. Chair.
1 second, Rashid, please. Kelly or Dan, anything?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I would feel horrible if we all of a sudden said no, since the regulations changed. He's already put so much effort into this. It wouldn't sit well.
Fair enough. Dan, anything on your side?
I'll just add, I would agree also with the fact that there's been some forward movement, and it sounds like the town was at least involved in some of the delays, whether they were responsible or not, they were at least involved. So I think it's fair to hold them to the original agreement that we had with them.
Fair enough. Okay, good. Thank you. Rashid, I'm sorry, you wanted to say something?
Yes, sir. I want to really thank you guys for knowing all what's going on. trust me, it give me no pleasure to come in front of you and ask for another extension. Believe me, this has been a big drain on our resources. And needless to say that everything town has asked for, we have done. And this is absolutely not in my hands. Otherwise, I'd rather have started this project. We have lost so much money and put over $1 million in this project so far. And you see absolutely no change, and break my heart. But trust me, it give me no pleasure to come in front of you. But I committed that will change the gateway to Northborough, and I'm not selling this project. And you see, I'm still intact. And by the way, there is no project, or it will be a dumpy thing again if we don't grant this, unfortunately.
Fair enough. Okay, so we need a motion to vote to extend the order of conditions for 3943 King Street for 3 years until September 2025.
So moved.
So moved.
How about a second, Kelly?
Second.
Second, all right. Roll call vote. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Thank you, Rashid.
Thank you so much. And I promise you we'll make it much better.
It will make it better, and take care of that situation you have going on there. So,
Thank you so much.
okay,
I
thank you.
apologize for coming from my bed.
No worries, no worries. Kelly usually joins us from her car, so it's okay. Not a problem. Not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Now I want to bring that up, that just as an option. So we knew we had that option. But I agree with, obviously, with the situation. Okay, 33 Church Street. This is a deck replacement patio and some site work. And this will be, who do we have for this now? Veronica Harmon, I believe.
Yes.
And Vito Colonna's here for.
Oh, should we bring Veronica in too, Vito?
Yep. All right.
Do you have a plan you want to put up, or do you want us to do it, Vito?
Sure, I can put that up. All right. Okay. All right. So this is 33 Church Street. This is the GIS, just kind of showing where we are. West Main. It's down here. We have Cold Harbor Brook to the rear of us.
Yep.
And if you look on the aerial photo, it's kind of the actual thread of the stream is kind of far off the property, but the edge of the wetlands creeps up right up to the rear side of this property right here. So you can see in the green kind of line here, that is the edge of BVW, and the 200-foot riverfront is off beyond the edge of the site. So we also have 100-foot river, 100-year floodplain, sorry, in this yellow line, kind of right up in here, up to elevation 294.5. And then above that, this is kind of a low area in the back. It's all lawn, it's all yard area. But up in this upper area around the house, they have an existing deck off the back that they'd like to replace. And then they'd also like to add in this 10 by 10 patio off to the side of it. It's like I said, it's all up in the lawn areas and everything's outside the, even the 35-foot offset to the wetland, and it's outside all the flood areas also. The actual size of the deck, it matches right in here. It's kind of this lighter line, that's the existing deck, and the proposed one is the bold line in front of it. So it matches that front edge. The only larger parts are kind of these two kind of wing areas off to the sides.
Yeah, we took a look at it on Friday,
Okay.
site walks, and I think we talked with the applicant a bit about the technique that they was going to use for the sonotubes or for the anchoring.
Yep. Okay. I wasn't sure. Are they going to use, sorry if I don't know, but were they going to use the helical piles, the drill in ones?
Yeah,
We talked with her about those. She wasn't sure which her contractor was going to use, but
Okay.
those have less impact. But
They do. So I don't know if she didn't mention anything if she said one way or the other to us.
still ongoing, I think, with the building. They're working with their contractor to determine what they're going to use.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's really just staying within the footprint with that small addition of the 10 by 10. But again, it's outside the 35.
Yeah, we just have to watch that. That's pretty close to 35. So let's make sure they hold that point and work away from it with the stairs if there's a problem. We just don't want that to be an issue in the future.
It's fine to me.
Thanks, Dave. Vito.
Okay.
All right. Any questions from the commission or comments, concerns?
None.
None? Let me see if we have any public questions or comments out there. No hands up. Okay. Vinny, any special conditions you would attach to this?
No, on this one, I didn't really see anything. This is pretty straightforward. It's neat and clean, I hope. I mean, they've got the erosion control barrier or the sediment control barrier in place. And that should be a limit of work line. So there's enough protection there.
Let's move with closing the hearing and voting.
Make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Seconded by Diane Goldner, or was that Kelly?
No, it's Diane.
Diane,
Roll call, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes.
and I vote yes. And now we need a
Move this.
motion to
Yeah.
move ahead.
Move to issue order of conditions for 33 Church Street, DEP file 2471220.
Second,
Seconded by Kelly Marston. Roll call vote, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes.
and I vote yes.
Thank
All
you very
right.
much, everybody.
Thank you.
Much
Good
appreciated.
luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vito.
Thank you.
All right. Notice of project change, 5 Barefoot Road. I believe we have, who do we have here for that? I got a hand up and I got Scott
James
Goddard.
Tatro.
Okay,
James Tatro, I think, is on the phone. Is that one of the hands that's up?
Yeah.
And I can pull up a
Hi.
plan if needed.
Can you hear me? I would, yeah, Vinny, I would ask if you could, please. Fortunately, can't work the computer to take part that way.
I lost my connection. It'll take me a second. Why don't you get started and I'll get this set up.
what are you trying to do?
I'm trying to pull up a plan, but I lost a connection to the system, but I have it ready to go.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So what we have before the commission is a request to change from a previously approved plan, which had much more impact and potential impact to a much lesser one. The previous plan had a daycare proposed almost entirely within the buffer zone with extensive parking outside of it. Had one-to-one slopes, worked right up to the then limit of 15 feet from the wetlands. And instead of that now, what we would ask the commission to okay is a change to a plan that I guess Vinny is trying to get up on the board, where all the work would be outside of that 100-foot buffer zone. The steepest slopes would be 2-to-1. the amount of impervious surface being created would be cut more than in half from a previous 16,500 to 7,400.
Hey, James, if I can just jump in, I don't know if you can see, you can't see because you're on the phone. I just pulled up the proposed new colored rendering, and you were explaining that the prior approved plan had alteration within the buffer zone and up to 15 feet away from the wetlands, and the wetlands are in green on the right side of the screen.
Correct. I can see your plan now. YouTube is just a little behind. Yeah.
Okay.
So the previous daycare, right where Vinny has had the hand on the east side of that 183-foot long property line. Yep. Had the daycare building in there, had one-to-one slopes which came to within 15 feet of that wetland. In place of that, what we now propose is what you see on the screen, which is this is a home that would serve folks who've had rehabbing from actually mostly strokes, but it's a physical rehab, and obviously all of that work, that building that you see on that plan, the 7 proposed parking spaces are outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. So we think this is, and again, a vastly reduced, more than cut in half impervious surface. So we think this is in almost every way an improvement. And I think Vinny might note that the area where the sort of the front of the building and the sort of block of 5 parking spaces there was an area that back in 2019 was, I think, flagged as being a potential isolated wetland, but that area was to be altered by the previous proposal as well. The primary additional alteration here is just on the very west end of things. Where the very west end of it, left end on the screen, where the previous proposal had stopped outside of an area where I think there's some conflict or disagreement with an abutter having encroached onto this property. And this proposal says, look, we're going to fight that fight, as it were, to get everything out of the buffer zone. So that's what you have before you is, again, I think in almost every respect, an improvement over the previous plan.
Okay, very good. Thanks, James. Anything else, James?
I don't know that there's anything else, but I'm sure I may be forgetting something which will come up in a question.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Any questions from the commission?
Yeah, I just wonder, I guess, for us, I mean, does the old NOI and kind of our old order of conditions, does it just go away? Like, do we vote to just, kind of rescind that, since there's literally no work in our jurisdiction on this plan? I guess I'm confused by what we would vote on for this. It seems like obviously a change, a change in the plan, but it's a change to take everything fully outside of our buffer zone, so we wouldn't even have any jurisdiction on this.
I think the only question there is that back in 2019, when I think this was the order was issued, the commission did not necessarily have jurisdiction over isolated wetland areas, such as I think is sort of suspected at possibly at the low point that's at essentially in the front of this building where it enters off the proposed parking. And now the commission, I believe, does have that jurisdiction. So I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Vinny, but I think it's sort of trading, I think it's acknowledging that, which would maybe call for this to be, the order to be continued, if that's the right term.
Yeah, that's generally the idea. They have an existing order that's active, and it locks in 15-foot setbacks. And the prior plan, which I tried to get, can't seem to get, I apologize, but the prior plan went to within 15 feet of these wetlands. and all the work was shown in the area within the 100-foot buffer zone, with the addition of a parking area where the alteration is shown in this revised plan. It was a bigger proposal, and what they're doing is they're reducing the size. So it seems like a huge change to a plan, but it is a huge change to a plan. But under the wetlands regulations, we have an existing order of conditions to allow a lot of significant work within the buffer zone. And now we're going to have no work within the buffer zone. And under the title, or under the Wetlands Protection Act, this isn't even jurisdictional. But under the local regulations, which if they had to apply under the local regulations, they would apply again, and you would consider whether that you could waive that isolated vegetated wetland impacts. So you could do it by having them reapply and redo things, but then they're doing it at risk. They're giving up kind of a bird in the hand that they already have. But it's not really it's a difficult project, and I don't think it's in the town's best interest. It's your decision, but there's significantly more impact near the wetland in the originally approved plan.
So, a quick question: is there a wetland under that proposed parking lot?
In this area here, there's an isolated vegetated wetland area.
And which, again, would have been altered by simply constructing the previously approved plan.
Yeah, the currently approved plan shows a parking lot area for like 40 cars, I think, in this area here and the building over here. So either way, the vegetated wetland was going to get altered, and it currently is allowed to be filled. So in my review and in the general reviews that were done by the town engineer and the planner, this is a use that's more preferable. It's a long distance away from the wetland, and it's still going to alter an area that is a local resource area, but we were going to lose that one anyway. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I got you, Vinny. I wasn't sure that isolated one, I guess, was the one kind of tripping me up, because I didn't realize it's not noted on here, so it's hard to kind of understand that piece of it. So okay, I got you now. I mean,
So
to me, I remember the old plan. I remember how tight we were. I remember talking about walls and where we're going to put walls and fences, and are they structures, and how close are we to those buffer zones? And, you know, clearly we were blowing up, you know, the entire right side of what we see here on the page with what we had before. So to me, it's kind of, you know, when we're looking at wetland impacts and impacts to buffer zones, this is, to me, a much better project for the commission, just in my eyes.
Hey, Vinny, when this project came to us in the original state, did we have jurisdiction over isolated wetlands?
No,
we did not. So if this was the project that came in front of us at that time, without any jurisdiction over the wetlands, we would have approved it as we see it.
Right.
Yeah, wouldn't even have come to us, Greg.
Right. Would have come to us at all.
So I have a question. I'm curious if the applicant would be willing to put a conservation restriction on the undisturbed area around the wetlands.
Absolutely. This use has no requirement for anything to be done with that extra space, you know, that runs around that wetland all the way to the corner of Barefoot Road and Solomon Pond Road, and to do so would be no burden at all on this applicant.
Great, thank you.
There was, I mean, it's your call. They did talk about having a place for the residents to go in here, like a little walking area, which could be used within the conservation area. So when we're working on establishing that kind of an easement, we may want to write in a local use, or if they want to do an improved path, if there's going to be wheelchair access through there, whatever gets agreed upon, we want to get that nailed down into the easement before we set it on in law,
Yeah,
let's say.
Yeah, and that's fine for, walking access or what have you.
Okay, Dan Clark, did you get your question answered?
Yeah, I think I'm up to speed now. I was confused too, so I think I got it. So,
Any more questions from the commission?
No.
Let me take a look here and see if we have any attendees with their hands up. I don't see it. Okay. Yes, I agree with the statements here that overall it's a tremendous improvement. And as Justin said, if this was, 3 years ago, at this point in time, we would never even see this. So, okay, let's close the hearing. If that's where we're going here.
I make a motion to close the hearing for 5 Barefoot Road.
Okay.
Motion by Tom Beal, seconded by Diane Goldner. Roll call vote in closing the hearing. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
yes,
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Goldner.
All right, if I vote,
You can vote on this one.
yes.
Kelly Marston. And I vote yes. Hearing is closed. No special, well, there is a special condition here, which is the establishment of some sort of conservation restriction, Vinnie, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We need to put words around that's done at some point in time prior to something else happening.
Prior to an occupancy permit, I would say.
Yep, that's a good trigger.
And then we may want to, we'll see what you want for a use out there, like if they're going to have a walkway, and we would have your contractor construct it. So we would, if there's a proposal for some use that would work with your land use, we want to have that constructed as part of the building construction. Does that make sense?
That all makes sense.
Great.
Anything, I mean, do they need, sorry, maybe through Greg or to the applicant, I mean, do they need any planning board approvals or anything like that still? I mean, is there any reason why you guys wouldn't want to close this process with us pending any changes from other boards or anything?
This would be a Dover amendment qualifying use, which would not need a special planning board permission.
Okay, sorry.
And they have been working with town planner Laurie Connors, and she's pleased with the changes. She made some suggestions on things that needed to get done, and they were prompt and included everything into the plan you see.
Okay. Any other questions before we move? All right. We need a motion then to move ahead.
Notice of,
Motion, we move ahead.
Well, yeah,
Recognize it
I
as a
was
project change.
summarizing, so it's. Try it again, Kelly. Try it again.
I'm sorry, I just motion we do what the plan says we do. Does that
Looking
work?
for a project change, right? To accept a project change for 5 Barefoot Road with a condition of a conservation restriction to be added to the final plan.
Yes, that's what I motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Diane Goldner. Roll call vote. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
yes,
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes, and I'm never motioning again.
and I vote yes.
I thank you all for your consideration.
Well, super. It's a big improvement, and good luck going forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. We'll make a little note here. Every month, make sure Kelly motions at least one activity. I mean, you got some masters here being taught, and Tom are masters of making motions, right? I mean, there you go.
Just got to keep it clicking along here. Move it along.
All right. Another notice of project change for what is now 95 and 105 Lincoln Street, previously known as 09799 Lincoln Street. So if that doesn't confuse you to start, then we don't know what else we can do. But who do we have here attending? Do we have any hands? Is that Brian Waterman? Must be, right?
Looking for Brian Waterman.
Yep, I'm bringing him to panelist. He should be showing up as a panelist momentarily. There he is. And we lost him. There you are.
There I am.
All right, Brian, welcome.
Hey, everybody.
Okay, so 95 105 Lincoln Street.
Yes. Yep. So, Vincent, do you have the approved duplex plan that you can bring up?
The old plan?
Yes.
For those, if you remember, this is the one, the property's right across from Lincoln Street School, next to the middle school.
Next to the middle school, across from Lydia's Way. It was approved for 2 duplex units, a duplex on each lot, 2 driveways, so 4 total driveways. The order of conditions was issued July 19th of last year. Since that time, and Greg, I think the last site walk you and Mia and I had out here, that's when their discussion came up that it might switch to single family. And Mia said, well, if you can maintain the same limits of work, you're getting rid of 2 driveways, and you maintain your roof runoff into infiltrators and maintain rain gardens, then she suggested we do the notice project change. So that's how we've ended up at this point. As the new people want to build their own personal single family homes on each lot. So we're getting rid of 2 driveways, going to single family. You're getting rid of 2 8-bedroom septic systems to 2 single family 4-bedroom systems. We're maintaining roof runoff to the underground infiltrators and maintaining the rain garden instead of having 2 rain gardens.
Brian, is there a plan we should be looking at?
Excuse me. Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt him, but I have the old plan ready, and I can get
just to refresh people's memory of what's approved now and then what we're changing to or proposing to change to.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm going to try to round up the other one. This is the old plan with the duplexes.
This is the one that's currently approved with the order of conditions, and the proposal now is to go to 2 single family units on each lot instead of the 2 duplexes, the 4 driveways, and the 8-bedroom septic systems, but maintain the limited clearing.
And that's what I'm trying to pull up right now. I apologize for the delay here.
That's gonna be faster than my home laptop. I'll do that.
I hope anyway.
Maybe.
Nope, that's the same one. It didn't come through.
You want? I could try to share mine if you want.
Yeah, let me give it another try. It should have just come up, but
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't think it was any bigger file or anything, so.
oh, it lost a connection. My connection to town hall dropped, so, and it's going up.
Something's coming up here.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, there you go. It's just loading slow, that's all.
All right.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
All right, so if you could just flip back to the duplex one for a second.
Oh, geez, you want everything, huh?
Oh, hey, we got to break you in hard here.
Yeah, that's it, right. There you go. I got it now. I'm connected.
All right. So as you can see on this plan, this is the one that is approved currently with the order conditions. So you had 2 duplex units, 2 driveways each, 2 septic tanks, and then an 8-bedroom septic system, and then a rain garden for each driveway. So now this is the last time I'll request it. If you can go back to the. So we're maintaining the same limits of clear, approved limits of clearing. Septic systems have gotten smaller, going to single driveways. Fred and Vin had a good suggestion on the old plan had ACO drains, which is it's like a trench drain in the beginning of your driveway to catch runoff and then direct it piped to the rain gardens. But we were able to lower the fill on this beginning edge a bit. So we were able to do a dip in the driveway from the road and put it off the right of way. And then Fred had commented to add some pre-treatment prior to the rain garden. So we went through with Vin and we added a stone and vegetated swale prior to the rain garden. And I think that's on the planting sheet, which is sheet 2, if you keep scrolling, Vin.
Oh, you think that's going to work, huh?
Yeah, it looks like you're getting there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So there we go. So you can see the off the edge of each driveway we have. So now we have a dip in the driveway, so the drainage comes across. It enters this pre-treatment swale, which is the first 5 or 6 feet are stone, just in case you have some snow that gets piled along that edge. Then it goes into a vegetated part of the swale, and then as Vin requested, and we added a stone check dam prior to anything going into the rain garden. So we're maintaining the rain gardens that we had before. Instead of having an ACO drain, a trench drain with a pipe to it, now you have a nice vegetated swale instead. So the planting is still the same, but we're just capturing the runoff a little different. The color restoration down there on the bottom left, which is the 35 no disturb restoration, that's the back side of lot 1. If you can scroll up just a little, yeah, if you can scroll up a little bit, then right there, that orange color, that was the 35, the area of the 35 foot that was cleared by the previous owner, and we had agreed to restore that. So that planting that you just saw on the bottom, that's that. That was approved as part of the order of conditions. So we're just maintaining that. So that's all that is. So essentially, it's the exact same plan that was approved under the order as far as limited clearing. It's just now you've taken away 2 driveways, made the septic smaller, gotten rid of the ACO drains in the driveway.
Are there more, Brian, the more trees coming out and back?
Well, that's kind of the second part of this question. I mean, I guess the first part of the notice price change was just if you guys would agree or feel this is a positive change and would support this as part of the notice project change. The second part is when these new owners were out there, they saw some of these giant pine trees that are there, and they have serious concerns about them coming down. So in lieu of filing a separate RDA under the tree policy after the fact, we wanted to ask now, because they're already going to have a crane on site because of the size of some of these trees that are right adjacent to the power lines in the road. And I suggested to them, I said, well, if you're going to have a crane out there now, if you want to request or inquire with the commission to cut some of these other trees that are outside the limit of work, now's the time to do it, because what you could do is the plan would be they would just cut those trees at the base and then crane them back into the approved limit of work before doing any work to them. So you'd have no machine access into the beyond the limit of work. They would crane it, someone would go in, tether it off, lift it back into the limit of work zone to take care of the, get rid of the trees. Most of these trees, like we said, are either, 36 to 42 inch pine trees that are 80 feet tall. A couple of the others are hollowed out red maples that are leaning towards the homes, that they are within your 25, 2 or 3 of them. Those big pines, or those are the pines. The other one is a dead ash. That one that Vin has his hand over right now, that's a hollowed out red maple. You can see right through the bottom of the trunk, even though part of the top is still alive. There's a 10-inch cherry that's leaning towards what would be their pool and patio area. So I said we can, the one behind the shed on the left there, that's a 40-inch dead oak. That unfortunately was a victim, apparently a victim of the gypsy moths. It's probably 70 feet high and, it's 40-inch diameter. So instead of trying to do this after the fact, we figured while you're under an order of conditions and under, our watchful eye and now Vinnie's, that this would be the time, if you're going to have a crane out there, just to cut them. You're not grinding, you're not doing any earthworks around them. You're just going to cut them, plop them back into the approved work zone, and then take care of the trees that you're doing inside the lot. So it's kind of
right now the site hasn't been touched. The only thing they've done is install the erosion control barrier along the perimeter.
Yeah.
And then they asked about the trees, and this is where we're at, is to decide whether we want to just move forward with craning them out, because they're going to get a crane in there anyway.
So 2 questions, Brian. One, are all the trees inside the 35?
Let's see. No, that one is outside. The 2 other pines off to the left are out. The ones in the front are out. The only ones that are in the 35 are the dead ash towards the back. Yep. And then those 3 pines. Well, 2 of the pines.
Which one? These are in the 25.
Oh yeah, they're in the 35. Yeah.
The 25 there, right? Those 3.
These are in the 25. That's in the 35. This is out, and this is in 35.
Right
It's like on the line, and that's within 25.
Yeah.
All right. A second question. So the erosion control barriers are up, is what I heard, right?
Correct. Our survey crew staked out the locations, and S&M Farms installed them, and Vinnie and I walked all the erosion control barriers. They did a really nice job putting them in.
Yeah, they did. Very nice job.
Yeah.
So then the cranes would easily know where to stay outside. They stay outside those barriers.
Correct. Yeah, they're going to be inside them clearing anyway. So we said, if you're going to have the crane there, because I said, they're not going to let you take a machine in there now and take those trees out. The only way you're going to be able to do it is have a laborer go in there, cut the base, and then they crane them back into the work area.
Sounds
All right.
like a good plan to me.
Any questions, Thomas? Questions, concerns? Tom Beal shaking his head no.
I think it's good. It's actually a good improvement.
Oh, may I address one other item?
Sure.
I know there's been some discussion about groundwater or potentially water in basements or septic systems out here. We've completed the full testing with the Board of Health agent. And we have an excellent determination on groundwater on both sites and the septic systems. If you could scroll back up to the top plan. Yep. So the system that Vin's hand is over right now, that system is going to, the septic systems drive the bus on elevations out here, because you have to be on that system. We have to be 4 feet above groundwater. So it's a fill situation. And then the house itself, we set the basement a foot, 1.3 feet above the estimated seasonal high groundwater, so that we won't have intrusion into the basement. The septic system on lot 1 to the north, we actually had a less than 2 minute perk rate on that. So we have to go 5 feet above groundwater. So again, there won't be intrusion of water into the system. The system is going to be 5 feet above the estimated seasonal high groundwater. And again, the basement there is set at 1.3 feet above the high groundwater. So I just wanted to touch on that. I know a couple people had some questions on that.
Right, there was, yeah.
Question from the commission. Comments, concerns?
Question on the trees.
Yeah.
I noticed some of the trees, they say, you know, hollow, dead, or leaning, but some of the trees just say like 40-inch pine. Are they removing all of them, whether they're good or not good?
Right, the ones that have orange on them, the pines they're proposing to remove, that are healthy. They're, you know, 36 to 40. They're old. If you go back into the wetland onto the north side, about a 36-inch pine split there in a thunderstorm last year. So I don't know if that scared them when they walked the site, or they're just worried about these coming down on their house or the driveway. So, and again, each lot is, the south lot is 4.5 acres, the north lot 3.5. They're clearing approximately, you know, 22 to 25,000 square feet on each lot. So you're still ending up with, you know, 4 to 3 acres on each lot that's going to stay wooded, heavily wooded. So, you know, the majority of the lot. And this is in the groundwater too. We did submit the groundwater overlay calculation worksheets to Fred and Vin. The amount of impervious, you know, can't be more than 15%. And on lot 1, it's 4%, and on lot 2, it's 6%. So yes, Kelly, to answer your question, there are a couple of pines that are quite large and viable still. They're not completely stressed out. A couple of them do have, you know, poison ivy vines growing up them, so they're getting there, but some of them are like the one closest to the road there, those 2 giant pines, you know, I'm sure the town probably wouldn't mind seeing those go. They're right growing on the power lines and could fall across the road. So, but
Okay.
Anything else, Kelly?
Yeah, the school across the street is looking for one dead tree to take sections of, but that's all.
That's a pride issue. We can work that. That's
they're gonna have plenty here. They could
that oak. Oh my God, they would definitely that oak. That's a
the one behind the shed, that's a huge, yeah, that's stone dead. So if the school wants something with it, they should let us know, and we can try to have the contractor save them. You know, if they want.
How thick a slice do they want?
Right.
They're looking to do an outdoor classroom, so they need little stump sections for chairs for the kids to sit on.
They'd be able to sit a bunch of kids around the stump
table.
Any other questions or?
Nobody else? The commission? A lot of nodding heads. No concerns. I thought I saw a hand up here. Let me check on the public side here. I do have a hand up. Chris named Chris. I'm going to Chris, so you can talk now.
Thank you. You hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
My name is Chris Woodcock. Mr. Chairman, I live on 18 Increase Ward Drive, which is to the west of this lot. It's behind the Lincoln Street School on the top of Chestnut Hill. You can't see it from the school, it's in the woods. But I've lived there for about 20 years and I drive by here frequently. And I very familiar with the property. It is something I've been discussing with Kathy Joubert over the last 20 years, and Mia, since she was there too. And my discussion was because I am aware that the prior owner kept trying to sell that. I was aware that the prior owner cut down a whole bunch of trees, knocked out the power to the area as well too, which you've already mentioned and you're aware of apparently. But I have just found out about, I did listen to and was very much a part of all of the design review hearings and the duplexes here. I have just found out about this proposal to put 2 single-family homes instead of 2 duplexes. And more recently than that, only about 2 weeks ago, thanks to Vinny, I found out that there had been a public hearing on June 14th. I'm not an abutter. There is only one public abutter to this, and I'm not sure he is even aware that he got it, a notice of this. The only abutters are the town, the church, and this one abutter to the west. As I said, I'm not sure in talking to him, he isn't sure he ever heard about this, but was rather interested in it. The thing that concerned me is I have seen over the last 20 years, the area along Lincoln Street, about where Vinny's got the hand there, right there. I have seen that underwater, and I have pictures in your files of that underwater and considerably underwater and for considerable amounts of time going back to 2007. In looking at the minutes of the June 14th meeting where you issued your order of conditions, I didn't see any mention of anything having to do with the standing water that's there all the time. I've submitted, by the way, many pictures. If you don't have at least a half dozen pictures, but particularly the southern site here underwater, then you're missing a lot. I was told they are in the town's file, and I can get them to you if you don't have them. But I have pictures that show it's wet all along the southern part of the southern lot along Lincoln Street there, going right along where the septic system is. And I've seen ponding in the other part there, and I've got pictures of those. I never saw those discussed, and I don't know if those ever came up with the initial hearing in order of conditions. From my reading of it, there was no mention of it whatsoever. I just heard, I forget his name, the engineer talking about, the septic systems and the wet basements. And he is aware because I've put him on notice of this, and I've given you notice too, the town, that these conditions are wet. And I believe that there will be flooding in the basements. And I believe the septic system, particularly on the southern property, will fail because it goes underwater. He's talking about the basement at an elevation of 299. The pictures I have show the water up closer to 303, 304. That's 3 or 4 feet above the floor of the basement, well above the floor of the swimming pool. I can't believe there's a swimming pool being proposed for these 2 properties now. And unless there's a huge, huge mound and a pump septic system to get it up from the basement, it's well above the bottom of the septic, the field here. I'm not giving you an engineering opinion. Understand that. I want you to be very clear that I'm not giving you an engineering opinion, but I am an engineer. I was a vice president at one of the country's largest environmental engineering firms. I know a little bit about this stuff. And I really am sure that this is going to be a problem for both houses, particularly the southern house, that they will be underwater, they will have flooded basements, and the septic systems will fail. There is a reason these properties were not developed like every other property along Lincoln Street. And I think you know what those reasons are. And this is really pushing the envelope, and I think it's a huge mistake. I understand you've had your hearings and it's probably too late to do it. But if there's anything you can do, you should be doing it now, because this is going to be a problem in the future for those homeowners. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the time.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Chris. Brian Waterman, you want to respond to that?
Sure. Yes, we were aware of the photos. Vin, if you can move your hand down just above, just above where the rain garden is, you'll see there's a 299 contour right there. There's a bowl that's in there. We were provided photos back when we filed an ANRAD to confirm the wetland resources out here. Kathy Joubert, Mia, Fred, we were all provided photos back in the ANRAD, and I think that was 2019 or 20. That showed that bowl right there full of water in March and April of 2007. And we submitted data showing that in March and April of 2007, there were periods that the temperature was well below freezing, and they had frozen conditions, and that precipitation was just in April was 4 inches over normal. It was over 8 inches of precipitation. So we're not surprised that area held water. We submitted an engineering calculation for isolated land subject to flooding, both under the state, which is a 1/4 acre foot, and your local bylaw, which is even more stringent, which is an 1/8 acre foot. And that area only stored, I think, 1/10. So it was nowhere near even the local town flooding bylaw. And that was all confirmed under the ANRAD. So yes, we responded back during the ANRAD process to both Mr. Woodcock, Mia looked at it, Fred Litchfield, the Conservation Commission during the ANRAD process. That's why it did not come up in the notice of intent, because it had already been dealt with in the ANRAD process. That low spot is going to be filled as part of this. So the site is going to be much higher than 299. If that flooded to 304, which he'd indicated, that entire road would have been flooded. Now, there could have been there's a culvert to the south there. That could have been backed up and caused flooding to come up higher. I don't know. We were dealing with the photos that showed that 299 bowl full of water in March and April 2007. But again, likely under frozen conditions and higher, 4 inches above normal precipitation. So June of last year, I don't know if everyone remembers, but it rained 21 out of 30 days. And there was no flooding in that bowl. And that was, if it wasn't going to happen then, it's not going to happen unless it's under frozen conditions and above average rainfall. So we did monitoring wells in this where the test pits are, because we were trying to test right before June of last year, and the groundwater came up. And so we monitored it, and we met with Kristen Black, the Board of Health agent out there. We know the groundwater, high groundwater is at 298. The bottom of the septic system has to be 4 feet above that. So the bottom of the septic system is at elevation like 303, I believe. So we're well above the elevation that Mr. Woodcock is explaining. So the homeowners are well aware of the amount of fill they're bringing in and what they have to do to make the site work. The reason it wasn't developed before was because the owner had some internal family squabbles that went on for many, many, many years. So that's the only reason someone didn't try to build this. So we think we've submitted a good plan. It's been reviewed by you guys, the town engineer, the former conservation agent. If there was a blockage, I think Vincent had a picture of that culvert to the south that seemed to be backed up at one point. I'm not sure what year that photo was. But when Mia and I walked this site, there was a nice steady flow through that culvert. So either the town had cleaned it out or whatever blockage got pushed through. So.
All right. Thank
I
you,
don't know if
Brian.
that helps, but I did send Vincent the information that was submitted as part of the ANRAD, the isolated land subject flooding calculations, the photos, the historic rainfall data for March and April 2007. And again, that was addressed under the ANRAD prior to the notice of intent.
Thank you, Brian. Chris, you can talk. You're still activated. Got a hand up here. Chris?
I'm sorry, I'm muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just responding to a couple of things that Brian said. I think what he said is he confirmed that when you had the June 14th public hearing on this site, that you were not provided the information that I was talking about, those photos that show this at all. I think that's a shame, and I think it's something that you should have been provided for in making your determinations. I think if you saw those photos, you would see that area where Brian was saying, oh, there's just a picture in a bowl. Yeah, there's some flooding in that bowl. That happens pretty much regularly, that bowl floods. The pictures I have in 2007 go all along the Lincoln Street there, where all those little black dots are on the thing you're looking at, all the way to the edge of the right along there is where the picture shows that under flooding. And frankly, I guess I'm a little bit surprised to hear that, oh, it's okay because the ground was frozen and it rained and that was unusual. I would hope that the members of the commission are aware of the fact that we're having unusual and weird weather. And the idea that the ground might be frozen in April and that we might get a large rainstorm that would flood that property, put the septic system underwater, put the basement underwater, put the pool, I don't know what with the pool. The notion that that might never happen again, given what we're having with climate change, you know what to do with that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any questions from the commission? Comments?
Move to close the hearing.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Tom Beals.
Yep.
Motion to close the hearing. Roll call vote. Tom Beals.
Yes.
Dan Clark.
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
Diane Goldner. Diane Goldner is muted. Diane Goldner is still muted. We'll move on. Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Hearing is closed.
I would then move to issue a notice of project change for 95-105 Lincoln Street, DEP file 247-1200. To change the 2 duplexes to 2 single-family homes and to remove the 15 trees.
Second.
Seconded by, was that Tom Beals again?
I think it was
I
Justin.
think Tom and Justin concurrently, but
Okay.
Justin can have it.
All right, Justin, you've got it.
thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Kelly didn't do it?
Yeah, no.
Roll call. Tom Beals.
One in tonight.
Tom Beals, roll call vote.
Yes.
Dan Clark.
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
Diane Goldner.
Yes.
Kelly Marston. Kelly Marston is muted.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly. And I vote yes. I want to thank Mr. Woodcock for his comments and his concerns. I mean, my 2 cents is that we are taking expert information from a number of sources here, engineering, the town planner, and I believe that the project as presented is acceptable to our standards. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
All right. Good night. Stay cool.
We'll try. Very difficult.
All right.
All right, Vinny, can you drop that screen? Excellent. Thank you. What do we have here now? I think that covers the hearing section. We do have a bunch of informal discussions. But let's start with, I know we've got Mark Arnold hanging around here. Let's get Mark in here and talk about 44 Fisher Street, expired order of conditions and unpermitted wetland alterations. So Mark Arnold, come on in. And unmute yourself. There
Thank
you go.
you, Chairman. So this is Mark Arnold with Goddard Consulting. I believe Robert Cox from the attorney for Mary DeFutis, who's the former owner of 44 Fisher Street, may be online and may want to be unmuted as well.
I don't see him. What's his name?
Robert Cox or Bob Cox?
No.
Okay, that's fine. We can definitely proceed without him. I thought he might be on. So I submitted to the commission a few different documents just to kind of walk through the history of this project. So I'm just going to start with kind of the history of where this site came from, because that helps build to where we're actually going with what the issues that were found with regards to the expired orders of conditions on the property. So 44 Fisher Street was originally permitted back in 1998. And this was, the permitting was to construct a driveway and a single-family house on the lot. The lot had existing ponds that were man-made historically in the past. Those had orders of conditions and had been closed out and basically permitted. There were some issues back there, but those have all been closed out. But in 1998, there was an order of conditions issued for the crossing of the river right there where the cursor is, and then a driveway that was going to snake up the site, was going to cross an existing crossing right where the cursor is right now, and then continue up to the top of the kind of the hill above the pond where there was going to be a single family house constructed. And so there was an old tennis court on the property, but basically this was a river crossing. There was supposed to be really no wetland disturbance, so no wetlands were supposed to be altered. The wetland to the east, which is to the right here, was wetland A. That was a wetland that was basically, it was an old agricultural hayfield / lawn. And the order of conditions had mentioned and required that it should be restored to a natural vegetation. The area should not be mowed to promote growth of indigenous species. And they were supposed to be monitoring for 2 years, documenting restoration and monitoring for invasive species. So that was the order of conditions for the bridge, the driveway, and the associated grade to access that. And again, there was no wetland filling proposed. It was just the bridge over the river itself. There was a second order of conditions issued in 1999 for the house that included additional access off of Crawford Street, which is to the west. It didn't involve anything really wetland crossing wise. It had some work in the buffer zone riverfront, but that was about it. That order was really never acted upon. The access to Crawford Street was never built. So that order basically was issued, never really acted upon, and then expired. In 2002, there were orders of conditions those orders of conditions were extended for a few years. And then in 2003, orders of conditions started to expire. And in 2003, 2004, based on Google Earth, we believe the construction was basically completed on the property. And so from talking with the former homeowner, so Mary, so her husband was in charge of whole construction, and unfortunately they're no longer together. And so we have this situation where he was in charge of construction. Conservation apparently was on site frequently for this project. And there were some discussions on site from Mary's point of view of why the bridge was sited where it was, because they were trying to avoid mature trees and some other things. But at that point, there was no as-built completed for the project. There was no COC applied for or anything else. And so, yeah, Vinny, thank you so much for pulling this up. If you look at this plan here and you zoom in, you can see the driveway, which is these dotted lines. It comes across the river just above A1, which is just to the right of the bridge, just as you cross over where the cursor is right there. And the driveway snakes up through the upland, crosses an existing crossing, and then continues up through the old tennis court, which was gone, was removed as part of the project, up to the house location. So basically, we got brought in to basically seek to close out the opens orders of conditions. And so the first thing we did was we had Cornerstone Engineering do an as-built of the property. And part of that as-built, we asked them to overlay the original wetland line on the plan, so that way we could determine how the project complied with the original wetland line, which was the permitted wetland line for those orders of conditions. And so as part of that, we basically noted a few things. One is the bridge was shifted approximately 20 feet east, which ends up shifting it downstream. It also shifts it basically right towards A1, which was supposed to be to the right of the bridge as it crossed over. According to the owner, the bridge was shifted to avoid mature trees. The conservation was on site. It's unclear because there's no real public records about what happened. But in all, basically, the way we look at it is we have bridge was shifted, and now you can see that wetland flag A1 is actually right in the middle of the driveway. As the driveway goes to the north, it continues to be within the wetland, and then takes a nice curve to the northwest, where it ends up clipping two other fingers of the wetland, which was wetlands C and then B as well. And so you can see there was originally a crossing between D2, D3, and C4 and C5. And that was the crossing that was supposed to be used. The driveway was shifted and you ended up grading into the C and B series wetlands there. The total wetland, the grading, and all in all, you end up with starting to add up to wetland impact. So in the areas of the A series, the C series, you end up with about 920 square feet. Areas along the driveway to the east along the A series there, you end up with around 4,690 square feet. All in all, it's around 5,860 square feet, we believe, of disturbance with originally delineated wetlands. Now, as part of this review, we did go out there, we reviewed the wetlands where they are currently. And so on this plan, you see two different wetland lines. You see an A series and an AA series. And the point is to show you where the current wetland would be delineated today based on soils, vegetation, and where it was originally. And that helps us to kind of decide where disturbance actually occurred. So when they built this driveway, they graded the slope to the right. So, and then again, as you go up towards the B series and the D series, and the B, C, and D series, we did a BB line and a CC line again, just to kind of correlate again where we had changes in the wetlands. So generally speaking, the original wetlands back in the edges are fine. So you see where B1 is far off into the wetlands there. That's similar to what we found already. But then as you get into the areas, we actually saw an expanded wetland here where B3, B4, B5, actually the wetland became larger since it was built, since the project. And now we have a larger area of lawn that's actually wetland in that area. But then we also lost wetlands along the edge where C2, C3, C4, C5 were. So the purpose of this discussion basically is to provide clarification on what happened in the past, where we stand, and make sure that when we prepare a notice of intent to rectify what's happened, we can prepare a notice of intent that's clear and concise and is generally going in the direction that the commission wants to see. And so right now, the Mayor DeFutis' intention is to, one, restore the wetlands that have been impacted. And the main reason is because trying to remove the work that's been completed for the last, basically, then it's been there for the last 15, 20 years. Trying to remove that and restore the wetlands would result in having to move the bridge, having to move a large section of the driveway, and would involve a lot of grading and disturbance. And so to shift all that, the amount of work and effort would be significant. And so what we want to propose is to basically build wetland replication for the wetlands that were disturbed on the property, and do that all in basically one general location. And what we're looking to do is to propose to replicate to the south east of the bridge, which is on the lower right hand of your plan there, along the mean annual water flags 103 to 109, possibly further along in the back as well. This area is along the original road. It's currently lawn and landscaped areas. The current owner, who's Manish Patel, he's willing to give up these areas, and basically you're going to end up having this whole strip will basically end up being replication or basically naturalized areas, because we're building a replication area about 55,860 square feet. So that's generally kind of the project goal. That's our plan, is to file a notice of intent to provide replication for all the wetlands that have been disturbed, not restore any of the wetlands that were previously disturbed, mainly because the amount of work to do that would be significant. Regrading would require possibly steeper slopes or retaining walls in the area of this A series slope. Areas along the other C and B are just, you could tighten them up, but it just doesn't seem to warrant anything. And so our plan was to leave the original delineation where it stands today, and then assume that everything upgrading of that is wetland disturbance. You get 5,860 square feet, and then we end up replicating that in the area of median water 1 to median 109. So that's what our intention was. We wanted to make sure the commission kind of got the early scoop on what we're planning on doing to make sure there was nothing that the commission wanted us to focus on, clarifying the notice of intent. So that way, as we file it, it makes the process, I think, easier for everybody to follow, makes the record cleaner, which I think for everyone's sake is going to be good for this project because of the history that's occurred. And that allows, I think, everyone to feel that things have been properly rectified in a manner that is clean, and then the future and posterity, we can all look back at the records and feel that we have a record that everybody can understand what happened and feel that everything was addressed properly.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Now, there's a second activity here too, correct?
So just as some additional history, so the current owner, Manish Patel, when he bought the property, he had his landscapers come and do some cleanup around the pond, and they cut down a whole bunch of trees and vegetation that was not supposed to happen. That occurred. MIA issued an enforcement order. We filed a notice of intent for all those plantings, for the plantings that were for the vegetation that was cut. And we submitted a restoration plan. That notice of intent was issued, order of conditions was issued, recorded, and those plantings have all been installed. So I have a report pending just to document that they were all installed properly, but that has all been installed, completed. So now we're in the monitoring, and that area, all that basically violation occurred mainly on the left side of the bridge, which is around the main central pond. And so in some ways, we're kind of on two sides of the driveway here, whereas Manish's stuff was on the left side and Mary's stuff is on the right side where the wetlands were, at least for the BVW versus the pond.
Okay. So really for that second NOI, Mark, it's done. It's a matter of monitoring.
Correct. Yes. The current order of conditions that is valid for Manish Patel is basically under monitoring. That's it. Yep. So all the work has been completed. We're just monitoring it now.
All right. Questions from the commission?
I'm sorry, I have one question. Total square footage originally disturbed versus restoration, was it 1-to-1?
So our intention was to do 1-to-1, mainly because the disturbance that occurred was under an order of conditions that was issued back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and so we're definitely going to go over 1-to-1, but doing more than 1-to-1 is challenging in the areas just because of grading along this river. It's difficult to figure out where else to mitigate additional wetlands without getting into areas that are more naturalized. And the reason we selected the area that we did for the 1-to-1 is we can avoid basically cutting down any trees. We can work around all the trees that are there, all the native shrubs that are along the bank, we can work around to make a wetland that will basically be a natural wetland that will flood when the river decides to flood and create some really nice wetland areas along the edge of the river, while keeping maintaining the existing mature vegetation, which we didn't want to disturb.
I'm curious, is there any other spot in like the sea area where there was, filling?
So the area of the sea wetlands, there was one area, if you see CC1 over to CC6, and then you have A6 to A5. That area is it's a little round, high area. It's only a few feet higher than the wetlands, but there's a row of mature pines that are in that area. There is Japanese knotweed in there, but we'd have to take down the pines to start to make up some area in there. And so again, because of the mature vegetation in that area, and because it wasn't really a large enough area to get the full area, we were trying to concentrate the replication in one spot and make one area really good.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Any more
Mark,
questions?
just a quick question. It seems like just looking at the aerials and everything, the area like kind of A3 or AA3, AA4, and probably continuing down the page there. Looks like it's all grass and lawn and being mowed within that area. And even, looks like on the aerial, it extends a lot further to the right, kind of where there is delineated wetland. Is that?
So that's a great question. So I'm sorry I didn't clarify. So part of the NOI will also be confirming that this A series wetland will be allowed to naturalize as an early successional wetland meadow. There's already wetland sedges in that lawn area already. And so as part of the original order of conditions, the AA series wetland was supposed to be a wet meadow that was supposed to be let to naturalize and monitored for 2 years for invasive species. So part of the new notice of intent will be reconfirming that work that was originally approved would be enforced in the sense of we would be ceasing mowing in the AA series wetland there, which is the original A wetland, and allowing it to propagate naturally and monitor it for invasive species. So basically kind of like wetland restoration in place where we wouldn't actually do anything except let it restore naturally and grow because the sedges are there. I think other stuff is there. It's just been suppressed by the mowing that's occurring. So the reason why we don't want to do anything from the AA's line up to the driveway is that's a nice gentle slope right now. It's I think it's 3 to 1. We could steepen it up, but then you end up with a steeper slope with more grading, and the amount of wetland that you could get out of that steepening is kind of tough. And on top of that, there's some nice birch trees that are at the top that once you start grading, we could be impacting those. So we thought the best way was to leave it as a nice gradual slope from the driveway down to the wetland and let the wetland restore naturally as required in the original order.
I couldn't agree more with that, Mark. And I pointed out, and I appreciate you kind of bringing that up, that is going to renaturalize. Because looking at the aerials, I mean, there's a significant area there of lawn. I'm sure when you put some flags or something out there, it's got to be a pretty decent area. So when we're thinking about the 1-to-1 restoration kind of on the south side of the stream, there is this big area of wetland there that's getting mowed today. That's kind of within a grass area that I feel like is also, somewhat mitigation for this too, although it's not being calculated. So appreciate the clarification there, because I think bringing that back to natural too, that's going to be a pretty decent size chunk of land there.
Anybody else have questions?
I have a question. It might be as a dumb question, I guess. Why are you proposing this now after 20 years?
So the original homeowner, when she sold the property, she agreed to close out the original order of conditions. So this is an order of conditions that is on the property deed as an open order of conditions that's never been closed out. And so part of just having a clean deed on the property is to have all the orders of conditions closed out. So that way, any future sale of the property to another owner in 10 years, there's no question about what's happened. And so this all happened because the property was transferred last year, and we've been getting survey as built that came back. We said, we need to look at some issues. We went back, flagged, surveyed it. Did some more flagging, resurveyed it, came up with the plan, and that's kind of where we are. So, and we've been working with the current owner and the former owner to kind of figure out what's amendable, because the current owner bought a property looking a certain way, and he's having to understand that some areas are going to have to be restored to replication and wetlands, and these areas of lawn are going to have to become back to wet meadow. So we've been going back and forth with them to make sure that we can have both sides agree that our approach was feasible, so that when we came before the commission, we had something that we knew both parties would agree to. So, and again, our goal is to have a property that is in full compliance with all the wetland regulations for the future.
So I can't help but notice the irony that you're trying to fix a 20-year-old problem, but the new homeowner created his brand new problem. Is he on board with, stopping mowing and doing all these things that you're proposing?
He is, yes.
All set, Dan?
Yeah.
And it's not a stupid question. It's far from that. So and the one point I was muted for a second there, but I think you might have answered it. That's that meadow that Justin was referring to. That you will cease mowing that, Mark, correct?
Correct. So you see the area of A5, A4, A3, everything to the right of that will become a meadow. And that meadow is probably on the magnitude of 10 to 15,000 square feet, if not larger, of meadow. And it goes right down to the next pond, which you can't really see here, but it's down there. Yeah, there's it's right down near where those solid black lines are.
Right. And our typical conditions are that they put up some kind of a indicator of the wetland line, the barrier. So that might be one of our standard conditions, is to put up, I mean, I'm not sure if a split rail fence would be appropriate here, but in your proposal, in the notice of intent, you should submit something to suggest what you want as a permanent demarcation of that area, so that the owners and their landscapers, if they hire a new landscaper, they know not to go in to the areas they're not supposed to go into.
Absolutely. We'll definitely be having that as part of our discussion, because that area, I agree, is definitely sensitive to encroachment because of the slope there.
We want to put some signs up there, or you think it's something different?
Our standard condition has like a split rail fence or boulders every 5 feet or 7 feet, but I've seen the manicured look out here. I don't know that would be something they would really appreciate. And as long as there's a barrier there, that's really what matters, I think, to keep encroachment out. And if they want to make it something fancier and prettier, that's great, but there needs to be something there.
I think, Mr. Chairman, we will definitely address that in our notice of intent and provide you something that meets your similar standards to what you guys like to see. I just want to make sure I discuss it with both parties, so that way we can make sure we have something that they think works, but again, will also comply with your intentions, which is to ensure there's no encroachment or mowing that occurs that's in those areas.
Mark, you thinking the NOI is for when? You talking August? That's 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, now that we've had this meeting, I'm gonna rush it as soon as I can, but I'm gonna need a week or two to put it together. So I'm hoping to be probably the second meeting in August.
You're muted, Vinny.
Yeah, we have one meeting in August at August 8th, and everything has to be in by Friday for that. And the next meeting is September 12th.
All right, then it's probably gonna be September 12th. But I mean, I'll try. So you said, when's the filing deadline for?
Friday.
This Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tall order.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we'll have to go for the September meeting if you're only meeting once in August, but that hopefully will give you all time to look at it, and we can have a very productive meeting in September and hopefully turn things around quickly and get things built, hopefully in the mid to late fall, when the conditions will be better for planting, because right now we're in the dry season. I wouldn't want to build it right now.
Yeah, and there's a filing deadline. It doesn't mean you have to file on that day. That's just the latest we'll accept it. You could file it earlier, and then we could start the reviews earlier and go back and forth maybe once or twice if there are issues, so that it's neat and clean when we get to the commission itself.
Absolutely. I'll file it as soon as I can, because I want to get this submitted to you guys, and we can start that with Vince, and that would be great. Thank you.
Good.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. All right. Quick ones here. How about we talk about the Aqueduct Trail Bridge connection and resurfacing preliminary design, Vinny? Let's do that one quickly.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Basically what it says in the minutes, the contractor, I think it's Stantec, the consultant, preparing the plans for resurfacing and creating and forging the access right across the Aqueduct Bridge. They're underway. It was funded, I guess, at town meeting, and they're going to be starting shortly. We coordinated with, we now have a contact who's the right person at the MWRA, and they are supportive and positive and really are encouraging the idea of community use of the right of way. So that was great to hear. The Trails Committee is now going to be moving forward on that. So that's just good news to let you know.
Thank you.
Good.
What about the Edmund Hill trespassing situation? I know we sent a letter out to him.
Yep.
Right?
We got the letter. It was actually posted, and the police have reported to me that I just got the report today that they haven't seen any sign of him getting back there for the last month or so. So they posted it. We're going to give it till next week. And then the Trails Committee crew has graciously offered to go in there and kind of clean the place up. It's a whole lot easier than having the DPW try to drive in there with vehicles and all. The trail crew is very sensitive to the trails, and they do a great job in town. So they offered, and I'm hoping they are still willing to do that. I have to let them know that it's probably in the next week's time frame, but there is no rush to get it done, but we want to get it done as soon as possible.
It's pretty active, as you know. So
they are. It's tough to keep up with them.
What about Birch Hill Road? We talked about the minor activity.
Birch Hill Road. That's an easy one. Actually, that was not a minor activity. That is, oh yeah, that was. What do I have for that? Birch Hill.
Pool replacement.
Oh, I don't have a photo of that one. Yeah, the Birch Hill was a situation where current existing property owner went to the building inspector, or actually went to the building inspector after the fact, after he replaced a 15-foot diameter pool, an above ground pool in his backyard. He replaced it, did a great job, and he's about 70 feet, 75 feet away from the wetlands. So under the Wetlands Protection Act, minor, what is it? Minor project. Yep, project activity. As long as it's over 50 feet away, then it can be considered a minor activity, and it has very little chance of impacting the wetland. It can just be allowed. And the work was all done. They had no impacts. They worked, and the only thing you could see 5 feet beyond the pool was a little bit of the sand to level the ground out, had gone 7-8 feet away from the pool. So they did a really nice job, and it was all completed when I went out there. So I'm just waiting for your approval to notify the building department that the pool replacement is okay by the commission. But if you have suggestions or thoughts, I'm open to them, because the local regulations are new to me, and I might be missing a little caveat that's in there.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Kelly, does Westboro use the minor exempt activity at all? You're muted.
Not really. It's pretty much just case by case.
So I assume that the owner is aware now that his property is near the wetlands.
Yes, while I was out there looking at the pool, he had the typical grass clippings down in the corner of the lot. And I said, you got to pull that stuff out. And because we were out there kind of helping him get his pool, he started moving the stuff out by the second time we went back. So there has been some improvement just by being out there and having a presence. So yes, he is very aware of it now.
Great.
Mount Pisgah, Edmund Hill stewardship next steps. Tom sent an email asking the same question. What's next?
Yes. Did you say Jim DeMeo was here on the meeting, or was that Jim DeGiulio?
Jim DeGiulio we know is here. I don't think Jim DeMeo is here. No.
I contacted Jim DeMeo, the person who prepared the plans, the bird plan and the stewardship plan. And he gave me a list of things that needed to get done, but he wasn't really clear about the next step process of how it got done. So I wasn't sure if there was something in the community that has been done in the past and a process to follow, because I've not found it in the files. Most of the forestry stuff is in a drawer, and it's old and battered.
Blow
So,
dust off of it, the dust flies away.
yeah,
you know.
yeah. So there's no clear direction, and I've never done one of those before. So I was looking if anyone else had any experience, Dan possibly, or Tom possibly.
So, and Dan's probably dealt with this more than, I'm still on the learning curve, but for municipality, my understanding would be that we need to put it out to bid for a forester and retain a forester. Then the forester can go forward and do a cutting plan. And this is in regards to the gypsy moth damaged trees on Edmund Hill. And the reason that I wanted to bring it up for discussion was every year that those trees are standing dead would, A, they become more of a hazard, B, they become less valuable. And, you know, the hope was that if we can salvage the trees that are already dead, we may be able to at least generate enough revenue to address the invasive species, and kind of get this forestry plan first step in motion. Second, I believe then that we have to put out a bid for somebody to do the actual cutting and try to get 3 bids for that.
Right.
And I'm sure Dan has more experience in.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for, is the idea of, I mean, I understand we'd get a forester. Do we have is there a format or a draft of that bid document, the scope of services? I'm sure it's been done other places, but I'm not sure if it's been done other places in Northborough, and I would then have to research somewhere else. Maybe I'll talk to the Sudbury Valley trustees and see what they might have. And if people have other recommendations, I'd love to hear it.
One suggestion, I think the first thing, did Jim DeMeo submit this stewardship plan for approval to
Yes.
DCR? He did.
Yeah, we're waiting. So we're still waiting for the approval.
Okay, we haven't heard it back from DCR.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's the first step, is get the plans approved. And then, yeah, it's tough translating my knowledge from the state to municipal, because I'm not quite sure if how you guys are different than the state. But yeah, there are plenty of licensed foresters out there that could develop a cutting plan for us that we would pay them to do. And then that cutting plan, I mean, typically I don't know how the town would do it, but DCR has a list of loggers that we would solicit bids from once we had the cutting plan in hand. And usually you do a showing, you walk around the lot to see what the trees are, and then you get bids back from the loggers. And we usually pick, we're obligated to pick the highest bid. So, you know, the most money from the lot that's for sale. I'm assuming in municipal it's similar. There's certain procurement rules that everyone has to follow.
I think so.
But in terms of soliciting a licensed forester, yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe someone in town knows how to do that procurement, whether you can just go out and pick a handful of licensed foresters and send a proposal to them and see if we get a response, or we're obligated to use some sort of set list. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, most of any, I know that it has to be advertised. You have to advertise it in the newspaper, just like we advertise our meetings. And then I'm sure that, you know, we can still go from the foresters list and invite people to bid.
Yeah, I'm looking at the idea, not just, I mean, the bid process, I can look up how that's done, or anything over 20,000 or 25,000, we need a certain bid amount or bid characteristics. But the thing that I was questioning is we want to do both the cutting, but we also want to do the invasive treatment. So is the forester the one that's going to prepare, he's going to prepare a cutting plan. As part of that cutting plan, does that include the invasive control aspect, or do we need a whole separate contract for the invasive control stuff?
No, I think we could do the scope of work combined.
A forester would be the one?
Right.
Okay.
So we do a combined scope of work, for the forester for both tasks.
Okay. That sounds good.
And Tom, isn't the intent that the tree cutting generates enough revenue that we can then pay the forester to take care of the invasive species piece?
It's possible. It's possible. I just had about 20 acres evaluated for cutting, and the revenue estimate is between $8,000 and $10,000. I have no clue what invasive would go for, so I can't help there. But they did say that, like, the pine market is pretty good right now. I know we're looking at salvage oak, and I know that there's other foresters. The forester that I talked to, they've been doing that right along because of the gypsy moth damage, or whatever they call it now.
Spongy moth.
Spongy moth, yes. So they're all familiar. They're all running into the same thing. And my only thought for being proactive was, again, the longer it sits out there, the value decreases.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
At some point, nobody's going to want it, and now we're going to have 100 trees that are going to fall down in the woods.
Right. Okay. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I think Dan's correct that, obviously we can't implement anything until we have the approved plan back.
Right.
Step one, right? Is getting that plan back. But
Right.
I think that I recall June DeMayo saying there was grant money floating around too for the next step here.
After July 1st, I think, was what the forester I had talked to indicated.
Right. All right. Well, I might be contacting you guys separately outside of the meeting. We don't need to go into all the details in the meeting. So I can contact you and we can get a little bit more discussion on that. I appreciate the help.
Yeah, I'm happy to help. Just let me know.
All right, and that's the informal discussion portion. COCs, we had 3 requests. I think you only accepted 1, Vinny, right? The other 2 were problems with 2 of them.
Yes. Sorry about that. I'm just going through my notes. Yeah. We had 2 requests that weren't ready for certificate of completions. The Lyman Street, they still have they have the check dam still in the stream channel. So it's not complete, and the vegetation wasn't growing that well, but they're working on that. And then 11 Hillside Road, they did a septic replacement, and the grass still is not growing over that area yet. So those are not ready. But I did I got one for 8 Babcock, and I went out there, and I can show if I can share my screen, I think I can show you a picture of it. It looks very nice. That's the area I'm standing on, the septic system with a pipe going back to the septic tank in the backyard. This was installed in 2000, I think 17 or 18. So it's had a chance to establish, and everything looked fine. I think they forgot about this order of conditions and are selling the house and need the certificate of completion of compliance.
All right, so we need to vote on 8 Babcock Drive to to approve a certificate of compliance?
So moved.
Motion made by Todd,
Second,
seconded by Kelly. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Diane. Diane Gouldner, you're muted. Diane Gouldner, you're still muted. We'll move along. Kelly Marston, and I vote yes. Completed. Are you back with us, Diane?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
She was in favor.
Yes.
So I have a question. For these closeouts that we're doing, you know, from 2017 and, you know, people that did not close out their orders of conditions. I mean, if they don't do it within the time that the order is open and valid, I think that we need to start charging an additional fee for Vinnie's time to have to go out. And I thought about this previously. We spend a lot of time going back and researching these and then going out to, you know, evaluate them to make sure they're in compliance. And it's because people don't follow through with their original orders. And I think that we should start charging a fee for it.
Yeah, right now, I don't think there is a fee for the
No, there isn't.
certificate of completion.
And if you were to do it when you're complete and when your order is still open and not expired, I wouldn't charge a fee for it. But for something that's, you know, 6 years old, or we've had ones that are like 10 years old, or like,
Yes.
I think we should start to charge for those. Maybe people would be more apt to get their inspections done when they complete their work.
Well, here's a question, I guess maybe for Todd, is that can you sell a house with an open order?
No.
Can. Most of the time, that's going to be an issue that the buyer is going to raise, and they're going to, that's why you get those panicked phone calls to, from some attorney prior to the closing, looking to have it taken care of. But,
I got
you know, you
3 of
don't have,
those this
there's no
week.
legal requirement that it be closed out before a transaction occurs.
It is a legal requirement?
No, it is not.
It is not a legal requirement, okay.
Yeah, Fisher Street,
Yeah.
as an example.
Couple decades.
Yeah.
Right. So usually there's a holdback. The buyer holds back money. And so that's what I'm getting is the phone calls. Okay, well, we need to get this certificate of compliance by whatever date they're closing. I was like, no, the commission's not meeting until after that date. So then they hold back money until they get what they need. So it does encourage them to do it, but it's always a panic.
Orders are good for 3 years, right?
Yes.
It almost seems that I don't know if this is a solution, but is that at the 2.5 year mark of an open order that a standard form gets mailed out to the buyer, the owner. Says, hey, you got an open order of conditions. You don't close it out in 60 days, it's going to cost you X.
That might
And
be.
I don't know. Oh, go ahead, Diane.
No, I was gonna say that might be a better way to get people to do it, because I've been down on my neighbor to remind him he needs to close out down on Stone Drive. Yes, ma'am. And it's never been done, so.
Again, I don't care if people don't close them out, you know, that's their own fault. But the time spent that could be used for more important things, and we're not collecting any revenue for doing work that's should have been done when the order was open.
Right.
Justin, you had a comment?
Yeah, and I think it's, it's kind of to everybody's point. I mean, yeah, you go 10 years, right? Or 20 years in the case of the one that we saw tonight that we need to, redo a whole bunch of work on, where if that was reviewed, right after the work was done, you'd get some insight into what went wrong. So it's tricky then to kind of go back 20 years. I just feel like, I don't know, in the time of automation of things, like I get automated text messages, automated emails all the time. You would think at some point, we'd be doing this paperless instead of mailing something to somebody. You've got their email on record and it just spits out, okay, 6 months later, hey, here's a reminder, you gotta close this. A few months after that, spits out another reminder. By a year, could be getting fined or something. I don't know, but it's one of those things where I feel like it's tough to put on Vinny to send out letters or anything like that to kind of chase these people down. It's really on them to close it out. And it's tricky, Tom, because I feel like some of them, construction, they might get their order, but then they might not start construction for a while, or sometimes construction spills, to longer. But I know it's what is it, 3 years, and then it's supposed to be up. So maybe there's some, I don't know, some way of doing it. It's a tough thing though, and I feel like we get so many of them for Vinny to keep track of them and track people down will be tricky. But I don't know. I just don't know if there's a great way of dealing with it.
I'm not saying that we have to track it down and chase it. What I'm saying is we charge $150 for you when you come in 10 years later and want somebody to go chase it down. Get a fee for it. Generate some revenue. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe
we
we
can
add
almost put it in
something.
our standard order conditions, right?
That's what
Like
I'm thinking,
as a condition that, if this goes over the 3-year period without you reaching out, you'd be charged $150 per year. That it goes over, something like that, something that's right there in the standards that, we could hold people to.
Yeah, I'm not sure the specifics of Northborough, but I think any fees have to get public hearing and it has to be on your fee schedule. So I'm more in favor of the idea for the fees, charging an extra fee if it's as a request for a certificate of compliance for an expired order of conditions.
Or an
Sending them a
expired
notice. I'm sorry.
For an expired order. It would
Right.
be.
Right, and so that's something we could add into our fee schedule and make it clear. And that way, I mean, I kind of echo what Justin was saying, trying to track down, we don't have there are systems, I'm sure, that track things like municipal processes, but finding out when orders expire and all that stuff would be a whole lot more work than me responding to the ones that actually submit the request. And then we charge them $150. It's easier on me to just get out there and get it done.
And all we need to do, Vin, is have that kind of in our fee table. And that's it once it's there.
I think so.
That could be a good way to deal with it.
And we add some sort of verbiage to the order of condition.
We can do that too.
If this is not closed out by, within 3 years, or like was said earlier, any expired order of conditions would be subject to a fee of X for administrative support or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Vinny, you may want to run that by Laurie to start the discussion, see where she's on this.
Right, the financial. Yep. Okay.
All right. Violations, our favorite topic. Fortune Hillside Road, not to be confused with 11 Hillside.
Right down the road. I was just there. I'm like, well, I know my way out there now. So that's one good thing. I'm going to share my screen and pull up a picture or a couple. So this is, I got a report from the neighbor who was over on this side here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Right. So the arrow is pointing to the pond.
Smith Pond,
in
right?
the back here. I think what is it? Smith Pond by Barbarian Farms.
Yeah.
And this is the neighbor's fence that they they were doing work in the basement of this house that's off to the right. And instead of going up the hill, they decided they would just dump it over the wall. And underneath here is the wattles and the filter sediment fence under this material here. So I got a call and they actually have cleaned it up. They went down and shoveled it for like a day and a half, shoveled all the stuff they just dumped over the wall, shoveled it down to the natural material, and then covered it with a fabric. This is looking on the, when I saw the violation, they're doing work in the basement, I guess, shoveling out to do some, putting in new piers for the footings. So instead of hauling that material up this slope that's like 8 feet high, they just took it, rolled across, rolled over the edge and dumped it. And that was the picture that I took, was over the edge. So they also had this slope that was unstable. And so I went back and they have stabilized it. They put the mesh out. They used the old jute mesh that was there and bought new stuff and put in hay bales and replaced the wattle. They're a little weak on the sediment fence being high enough, but that sediment fence is towed in deeply underneath. So I think that should hold. If anything, that's a kind of a steeper slope. So I don't see any more than an inch or so of water getting along there because it moves right down to this corner, and that's captured right in there. So I think I considered it being addressed. There was a violation. I didn't issue any violation notices. The contractor was very responsive. He wanted to meet. Like right after I got out, I called him and he said, okay, can you go out there again and we'll meet and talk about it. So I went back out and gave him the recommendations of what to do. And he had his contractor out there that afternoon doing the work and getting it stabilized. And so I didn't issue any violation letters or notices. And I just wanted to kind of let you guys know that that all happened. And if I should be doing the more paperwork than just getting it fixed, let me know.
So I think this was started off with a violation because they didn't have an order of conditions to start with.
No, they had this is a fill area where I was standing. That was for a new septic system. And there's an order of conditions on the property for the septic installation. And they put in this fill, I think about 6 months ago when the grass was starting to grow. And then they're doing work. Not sure why they didn't just demo the whole building, but that's a whole different story. But they're doing work on the inside of the building to get it up to speed and then are going to work on the rest of it. So this is a project, you issued an order of conditions for the septic, as well as to do work on the foundation all the way around. So this one I'm going to go out and visit probably tomorrow and check to see what their plan is for doing work on the foundation around the other side, because that just goes straight down to the pond right in there. But it does have an existing order for this kind of work, but the contractor just didn't do what he was supposed to do. And the owner was very apologetic and has been very aggressive to make sure it doesn't happen again.
The restoration looks reasonable.
Okay. Yeah, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. And he agreed to that. And the contractor doing the work said he didn't know any better, but it was one of his guys. It was easier to dump downhill than uphill, which I can understand when it's 85 degrees.
The problem was rectified quickly. So it's.
I think so.
That's good. We see the need for documentation here or not?
I've got it all in the file of what was done, the dates, these.
No letter, right? No letter.
But I didn't write a letter. I don't know that it would be any benefit.
As long as you have it in the file, for my 2 cents, it's fine.
Yep.
Anybody feel differently there? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
That is it. Correspondence, Vinny?
Correspondence, we've got the MACC dues are due. I forget what the amount was. I have it here, but not on the.
Is anybody covered with MAC any other way? Like Kelly, you covered through Westboro, or Justin, you covered through work or something, or?
So sadly, I was booted off of West.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you said that because you are listed as being not in Northborough. We only have everybody else's listing included.
Yeah, I was covered through Westboro, but a resident of Westboro applied, and because I was the only one that wasn't a resident, I got booted. I'm
okay.
a one conservation person now.
Well, but think about this, Kelly. A, there was no indictment involved. Okay, that's good. Number one. Right. Number two, you had opportunity now to make motions here. We learned that already. So there's plenty of upside.
Right. I know you could volunteer with the local conservation commission member or agent for an afternoon a week or so. That'd be great.
There you go.
So the amount, it's going to change. I had the amount being $785 for the total. It includes, I added my membership as the agent for the town. It's an additional $60 plus a $15 subscription to the e-handbook, that MACC handbook. That's very handy to have. And the regular 710 membership for members. I'm not sure if that's going to go up. I thought we got 7 members. What is it? Oh, membership, associate commissioners. It's $60 per person for an associate commissioner and a commission staff, but we only had 6 commissioners. I will check to find out if there's an additional fee for the 7th commissioner and then let you know. But right now, the amount would be $785.
Yeah, and Greg, I don't have it through work.
You don't?
No.
Yeah, you're included, Justin.
Okay.
Well, let's vote. We should vote on this then.
Yes, we need a vote to, if you can keep it flexible, if I have to increase the amount by whatever amount, but I have it as $785 and it may go up another $60.
Yeah, you're gonna get another $60 in there.
I got a feeling
How
they
about
got
not to exceed 850 or something. Then.
I'll come back to you if it's over 850. Yes, that's a good idea.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the 850 for MAC membership.
Second,
Led by Diane. Roll call vote. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Diane Gouldner,
yes.
Kelly Morris, and I vote yes.
And that comes out of the commission's regular fund, right? I'm not exactly sure of the finances, but I think there's only one real fund available for that one.
Yes.
Complicated, Vinny. It's complicated, but yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's Wayne Baldelli will take that to his grave. He will take that fight to his grave. I know that. So,
All right, so I think that's everything then.
I think so. Anybody have anything they want to bring up? Any issues or strange things you've seen in your travels around town?
Oh, actually, it's not huge, but they must be doing the horse pasture and they're starting to track dirt out into the road.
Where am I?
On Howard Street?
Howard Street.
Howard Street.
That's the one we talked about, with the lady, Mrs. Bartolini.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, because she has a request in and it's going to be, I think, on our next meeting. She wants to relocate the stable and we were talking about going out and taking a look at it. So we can take a look at that and look at tracking out into the road. I can give her a call and just let her know.
Sounds like that's a phone call.
It's not huge, but
no. It'll become phone calls from other people if we don't do something.
So it's tracking out into Howard Street?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, she seems really responsive. I think she'll take care of that.
Anybody has?
I have
No?
one more question.
Yes, Diane.
When Mia was still here, she was taking care of all those trees that were being cut down. She had the cameras up and everything. Are the cameras back in possession of conservation? And is there any further information on that particular project of whomever was having fun cutting trees? Mount Pisgah up there.
Pisgah tree cutting.
I have no history, so
I think Tom and Todd maybe used just Pisgah a bit, huh? You seen anything?
I have not been up there recently. I have been extremely busy. And we got confined to barracks for the last 7 to 10 days for COVID. So I haven't been out much. And now it's nice and warm, so I don't think I'm going to be traipsing up there shortly.
No, okay.
Yeah, I have not.
So I have no additional information, but we did have trail cameras up there. And that is a good question, Diane, as to whether anybody retrieved them or not.
I have a couple in my office, and I think the Trails Committee were the ones that were implementing that, but I will verify. That.
Maya had put them up. She was the one who knew where they were. So we may have to ask her that question.
I talked to her today on a couple other things, so I can talk to her again.
I did get Vinnie forwarded me a notice today that the DEP has declared that we are in a drought. So any intermittent stream that doesn't seem to be, or any perennial stream that's not flowing, you can't call it intermittent. So after May, right? May 22nd or something.
Well, May of 2022, and until now, they can't take a photograph and say, well, the stream is no longer flowing. It's not perennial.
Nothing would ever happen. So, okay. August 8th meeting. Any conflicts we know of? Anybody? Vacation or personal items or? No, everybody's around. Diane, you're good, August?
I am here.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Vinny?
Nope, you covered everything. Thank you very much. It was great.
You did a great job tonight, Vinny, without Fred being here. So that's good.
Thank you.
Fred didn't take it down any rat holes that were, that he'd like.
I do them every day.
There you go. Good stuff.
Yep.
Okay, unless anybody objects, a motion to adjourn.
I so move the adjourn.
Second.
By Todd. Tom Beals.
Yes.
Dan Clark.
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
Diane Gouldner.
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.